You know, growing up as a Boy Scout, I believed in that whole be prepared motto. Little did I know, it would come in handy for navigating betrayal rather than the wilderness. My name's Mike, 36, lawyer, and recently divorced. The key word is divorced. Let me take you back to how it all fell apart. A few months ago, I was scrolling through my wife Amy's phone. Now, before you brand me as paranoid, let me explain. She was heading to Paris on a work trip. I couldn't remember the name of her hotel, and rather than ask her again, and endure her usual, "God, Mike, don't you ever listen," I thought I'd just check her email. Password? Our anniversary date. Cute, right? Within seconds, I wished I'd been wrong. It started innocently enough. Work emails, logistics for her arbitration team. But then I hit the thread. You know the one. The kind where you realize your wife is writing paragraphs about Paris at night to a guy named Connor. Connor, the firm's glorified errand boy, or paralegal, if you want to be polite about it. Their emails weren't just about arbitration or sightseeing. No, they were practically sexting over work email. Can't wait to take a moonlit stroll with you by the Seine. I'll sneak us some champagne after the meeting. Why don't you just leave Mike so we can stop sneaking around? And Amy's reply? Oh, this one hit differently. Mike makes me feel safe. Safe? I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or vomit. I guess I was the emotional airbag for their reckless joyride. My lawyer brain kicked in before my rage did. First instinct: preserve evidence. I forwarded the emails to myself and printed them on our Wi-Fi printer downstairs. Amy was out for a run, so I had some time. Funny thing is, I'd already had a gut feeling. Call it lawyer's intuition. She was way too flippant when she first told me about the Paris trip. For context, Paris was our city, the one we'd always planned to visit together. And here she was, treating it like a layover to Cleveland. But back to the betrayal. After printing the emails, I considered two immediate options. First of all, punching Amy in the face. Don't worry, I didn't. Secondly, grabbing Connor by his gym bro neck and shaking the protein powder out of him. Neither would work. I needed a plan, a surgical strike, not a tantrum. By the time Amy got back from her run, I'd packed a suitcase and was halfway out the door. Work emergency, I told her. No kiss goodbye, just a quick dodge when she puckered up. She looked more confused than concerned. Probably already planning to have Connor over. Let her. I wasn't leaving in defeat, I was retreating to regroup. First stop: a nearby strip mall for coffee and brainstorming. As I sat there, list in hand, one thing became clear: Amy wasn't just going to lose me. She was going to lose everything. Sitting in that strip mall coffee shop, I made two decisions. First, reconciliation was not on the table. I wasn't going to be the idiot who forgave the woman screwing her coworker while planning to explore Paris with him. Second, I was going to turn the full force of my legal training against her. If Amy thought she was going to walk away from this unscathed, she was in for a rude awakening. Step 1. Gather intel. I called Frank, a private investigator I'd worked with on a few cases over the years. Frank wasn't just good, he was scary good. The kind of guy who'd find out your shoe size based on a blurry security cam photo of your shadow. Frank, I need a favor, I said, diving into the situation. She's brazen enough to bring him to your house? Frank asked, half laughing. Arrogant. She thinks I'm the safe option. I'll handle it personally, he said. What's your timeline? Now. Frank's plan was simple. He'd plant a few cameras to monitor the driveway and the house. He also loved the detail about the treehouse in the backyard that overlooked the master bedroom, prime real estate for evidence collection. She likes the blinds open, he asked. Unfortunately, yes, I said. Apparently, exhibitionism keeps the spark alive. Next, I needed a lawyer. Sure, I could have handled the divorce myself, but even the best surgeon doesn't operate on himself. Enter Harry, an old friend from law school. Harry wasn't just smart, he was ruthless. The kind of guy who made opposing counsel regret passing the bar. Let me guess, Harry said when I called him. You're not here for advice on making amends. Not even a little, I said. Good. Come by my office tomorrow. With the PI and legal front covered, I moved on to logistics. My house was about to become a war zone, so I needed a base of operations. A quick search landed me at a long-term hotel just outside town. No chance of running into Amy or Connor there. While settling in, I got a call from an unexpected number. "Mr. Buford," said a voice. "This is Sam Granger. I'm in real estate." "Okay. I buy old houses to flip them into McMansions." Yours caught my eye. My first thought? Who in their right mind calls a house old when it's barely 30 years old? My second thought? This might be useful. I told Sam we could meet, but only after my business trip. He didn't need to know the house wasn't for sale yet, or that it wouldn't be standing much longer. Back at the hotel, I realized there was one more loose end: Maggie. Maggie and I were close even before Amy came along. Too close, if you know what I mean. But after Amy came along, we became just friends. I hesitated before calling her. "What do you want, Mike?" Maggie answered after a long pause. "A favor." "Of course. It's about Amy, isn't it?" she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Color me shocked. "She's cheating," I said, not bothering to sugarcoat it. There was silence, then laughter. "You're serious? Oh, this is rich. Can you help or not?" "Depends. Is she going to hate it?" "Absolutely." "Then I'm in." The pieces were falling into place. Frank confirmed that Amy had brought Connor over the night I left, and the treehouse footage didn't leave much to the imagination. Meanwhile, Harry assured me that Virginia's divorce laws were favorable to someone in my position. All I needed was Amy's cooperation. And by cooperation, I mean her signature on some documents she'd never actually read. By the time Amy got back from her Paris trip, she was going to be standing on a pile of rubble, literally and metaphorically. But first, I needed her to sign some paperwork. That's where Maggie came in. The plan started early Tuesday morning. I walked through the front door of our house, loudly announcing, "Honey, I'm home." Amy appeared at the top of the stairs in a bathrobe, her hair a mess and her face pale as a ghost. She plastered on a nervous smile. "Mike, you're early." "Missed you," I said, cheerfully ignoring the wine glasses on the living room table and the unmistakable sound of someone hiding upstairs. Amy hovered near the dining room while I spread a stack of documents across the table, pretending to ignore her fidgeting. Knock, knock. Amy flinched like a kid caught sneaking out past curfew. "Can you get that, sweetheart?" I said. She opened the door to find Maggie, dressed in business casual perfection and holding a sleek leather case. "Hello," Maggie said, breezing past Amy and sitting at the dining table like she owned the place. "Who's this?" Amy asked, her voice tight. "This is Maggie, a notary," I said. "Since you're heading to Paris soon, I figured we should update some documents, just in case." Amy narrowed her eyes. "Documents?" "Powers of attorney, a refinancing agreement on the house, and some other housekeeping," I said with a shrug. "You know how it is. Better safe than sorry." Amy relaxed a little. She always bought into my Boy Scout persona. Her mistake. I slid the first document across the table. Amy glanced at it for maybe 3 seconds before signing. "That's my wife," I said with a grin. Always so efficient. Maggie was all business, notarizing each page as Amy signed. At one point, she asked for Amy's ID. When Amy left the room to fetch her driver's license, Maggie and I exchanged a quick, knowing look but kept straight faces. When Amy returned, she handed over her ID without a second thought. "Thanks, honey," I said, sliding another page her way. "This one's important. Just a little affidavit confirming, recent events." "What kind of events?" she asked, glancing upstairs. "Oh, nothing dramatic," I said. "Just a routine statement to keep everything above board. Trust me." The irony almost made me laugh out loud. She hesitated for a second, then signed. By the time Maggie packed up her notary supplies and left, Amy looked visibly relieved. She even tried to hug me, but I dodged it by pretending to grab my phone. "Conference call," I said, heading toward the basement. Amy didn't know it, but she just signed over her entire financial future, and admitted to her own adultery in a notarized affidavit. From the basement, I listened as her guest shuffled out the front door. By the time Amy hopped in the shower, I was already backing out of the driveway, leaving her none the wiser. The next day, I met with Sam Granger to finalize the sale of the house. Thanks to the documents Amy had signed, I didn't need her for a single part of the process. Sam handed me a check for the sale, well over $100,000 in profit. That money went straight into an account I just opened in my name. That afternoon, the movers came. I told them to pack everything Amy owned into a separate truck and send it to a storage facility. My stuff went to a new apartment I'd rented. As for the rest, I sold it all. The furniture, the appliances, even the dishes. The wedding photos and her bridal gown got special treatment. I took them to the fire pit in the backyard, stacked them with care, and lit them up with lighter fluid. The photos curled and blackened, her smiling face disappearing in the flames. For good measure, I filmed the whole thing. I wasn't planning to release it, unless I needed leverage. When she came from Paris, Frank's camera system caught her pulling into the driveway with Connor. She stopped in her tracks when she saw the empty lot where our house used to be. Apparently, she had a full meltdown right there in the driveway. The final piece of the puzzle came when Harry called to say the divorce decree was finalized. Everything was official. When Amy returned from Paris, her life was in ruins. But the best was yet to come. Amy returned from Paris expecting the life she'd left behind. Instead, she found an empty lot where our house had once stood, a bank account she couldn't access, and a marriage that was legally over. Her first move? Rage dialing me. Too bad I wasn't picking up. It wasn't until her father called me that I got the full picture. "Mike," he said, his voice tight. "What the hell is going on? Amy has lost her damn mind. What's the problem?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "She came back from Paris and there's no house. She's hysterical." "Well, she did sign the power of attorney forms authorizing me to sell it," I said calmly. "You sold the house without telling her." "She knew," I lied. "Guess she should have read the paperwork." The silence on the other end told me I'd hit a nerve. "And the money?" "She says there's nothing in the joint accounts," he demanded. "Again," I said, "she signed forms giving me control. I moved the money into a new account. Legally. This was too easy." But then he dropped the real bombshell. "Mike, she's covered in tattoos," he blurted out. That caught me off guard. "Excuse me?" She said she was kidnapped from the airport," he stammered. "She and that coworker of hers. They were drugged, and when she woke up, she was covered in tattoos saying horrible things." I had to put the phone on mute so he wouldn't hear me laughing. Apparently, her face, neck, and arms were inked with phrases like homewrecker and 304 internet slang for, well, let's just say it isn't flattering. Connor hadn't fared much better. Word was he'd been beaten so badly he needed physical therapy to walk straight. "Mike, did you have something to do with this?" her father barked. I played dumb. "I've been in New York all week. Ask the hotel staff. They know me by name. Or call the friends I've been visiting. They'll vouch for me." He didn't know what to say, so I ended the call with a polite, "Best of luck to Amy. She's not my problem anymore." First, the tattoos weren't just embarrassing, they were expensive to remove. Laser treatments aren't cheap, especially when you're covered head to toe. Her law firm wasn't thrilled about her new look, and she was quietly let go a month later. Connor? He didn't fare much better. Between his injuries and the fallout at work, he found himself unemployed and unemployable. Apparently, arbitration cases don't go well when your witnesses and exhibits are missing because you're too busy hooking up with a coworker. Word got out that they'd been fired, and their relationship didn't survive the strain. Connor left her high and dry, which was poetic justice, considering how they'd started. Meanwhile, my divorce settlement held up in court. Despite Amy's attempts to cry fraud, the evidence was ironclad. Her signature was on every document, and her own affidavit confirmed her infidelity. Harry told me she fainted during a meeting with her lawyers when they realized the case was unwinnable. I almost felt bad. Almost. I spent the next few months hiking in the Adirondacks and visiting friends in Canada. My phone was flooded with voicemails from Amy and her family, but I didn't listen to a single one. By the time I resurfaced, Amy was living in her parents' basement, drowning in debt from tattoo removal and legal fees. Her once perfect life was a smoking crater. As for me, I'd never felt freer.